A lot has changed overnight, but Buick and GMC's commitment to you remains the same. We understand you want to feel safe, so we're offering current owners complimentary OnStar Crisis Assist services. Should you need a vehicle, we're offering 0% financing for up to 84 months with deferred payment options for 120 days. Plus, you may have the option to shop online and take delivery at home. Visit our websites for the help you need.
Visit AutoSpot GMC today.
Hi, my name is Eddie Santos. I'm a retired Army Sergeant with more than 23 years, and I am a disabled vet. I've been all over the place trying to get assistance for my disability. And as for right now, the only person that seemed to help me out was when I went to the Congressman's office, tried to get some assistance for him to help me get my prosthetic leg fixed. So finally the Congressman had me the opportunity to go to Palo Auto in San Jose, California, where they finally fixed my prosthetic. If you need help and you seem to not get it anywhere, you should go see our Congressman with the people he has there to help us veterans get what we need and what we deserve for doing our time in service for the freedom of our island and for our country.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.
Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using island cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, tasted their food and everything, we definitely use them again because their service and food is just awesome.
The pompous
and elite wish we go away
because we are
real and direct.
No interest owns us,
and we have no interest but the truth.
Together we are exposing
corruption.
Together we will reform criminal justice.
Together
we are fighting violence
against women and children.
We here at
Kandit will shine the light
on every corner of darkness.
Together we are giving a voice
to the voiceless
and forgotten.
Stay lit.
Together.
Together we are giving a voice to the voiceless and forgotten.
We are Kandit News Group.
I'll swim through the sea, I'll climb to the mountain tops. Won't you come follow me? I'll take time to notice all that I see, and after I've come so far, you know where I'll be. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. But life is a vision, that's how it should be. The world is a canvas choices are free. At the end of the journey, where all is complete, they'll all wonder where I've gone, but you know where I'll be. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. Our dreams last forever. For all that we know, the roads come together, and that's where we'll go.
Half a day and welcome to Candid News. I'm Johnny Rosario.
And I'm Governor Lulian Guerrero. I'm only here because I heard that Mike is going to be on this show. I don't like him.
Welcome to our studios here in Tumon, Guam. At our producer's desk is Eric Rosario.
Off a day.
Off a day. And we're just going to get straight into it. You guys don't want to see us. You want to hear from Congressman Mike Nicolas, so we're going to call him right now.
He's playing hard to get.
Okay. I just saw him.
Thanks, Rick.
Buenas, Congressman.
Yeah, you might want to check the audio on the programming. I wasn't sure if mine cut out on my phone or if it's a general audio problem on your side.
Oh, I think if you're watching it on Facebook, it just happens every now and then. You have to close it and then reopen it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, just checking.
it's a thing. It's a Facebook thing, I think. But thank you so much for accepting our phone call. Johnny's here and Eric is here,
Good afternoon.
Hey guys, how you doing?
and of course all of Kandit Land. You wanna say hello to Kandit Land?
Hi, Candid Land. You're my favorite board game.
Thank you. So first of all, I have to apologize for not being a part of your live news conference this morning. Truth be told, I was sleeping, and Johnny and Eric were trying to get the stream going, but there was connectivity issues on our end, not on your end. But thank you very much for inviting us. I did notice that you put this out to legitimate media sources, and I wanted to ask you about that. Because I saw some comments somewhere. I just wanted to ask you about, what's with the legitimate media sources, and thank you for including us in that.
Yeah. Well, media, we all have a very big responsibility in trying to make sure that the people are receiving accurate information. But one thing about media is, they're kind of regarded by the public as being the source to trust in terms of, their hearing and the circumstances that are being shared with them. And, when you have certain media sources that are putting out information that is inaccurate, it causes a lot of distress in the community. And it also makes my job a lot harder, because then I got to go back and kind of address the misinformation. And so, there have been several circumstances with a particular media source that, mischaracterizes the information that we put out. For example, when we were talking about some potential ideas on how we can expedite economic impact payments, this particular media source spun it around and said that we were trying to raid the retirement fund, which was absolutely not what we were proposing.
I remember.
And so, that caused a lot of distress of retirees. It undermined the credibility of our office and what we're proposing, making it sound like we're not vetting our things properly. And then we had to go back and correct the misinformation and re-educate people who were misinformed that was not what we were proposing, and this is the detail that we were proposing. And so, I want to constantly be able to focus our energies on actually getting things done for the people and not having to, go back and correct misinformation that's put out there. And I want to avoid distressing the people as much as possible. So we're going to make it a point in my office. We've been making it a point in my office to make sure that we're engaging with legitimate media sources that have journalistic integrity and they value the accuracy of the information they put out. And, I wanted to just kind of credit you guys at Kandit, because there was a particular story that you guys put out that you immediately retracted when you noticed that there was an error, and you apologized for it, and you maintained your journalistic integrity. And those are the kind of behaviors that actually builds credibility with media sources and the public and with those who engage with media sources. So, thank you for that, and thank you for what you guys do. And my office too, we're going to do what we can to not add fuel to that fire, and we're not going to be engaging with illegitimate media sources that don't value accuracy in their reporting.
Well, thank you for that, Congressman.
Can I just say, hi, Congressman. Even with this pandemic that is happening and the crisis, I'm seeing it from the information that is coming out, even if it's coming from our government of Guam. I'm still finding myself having to make sure that what's coming to us is correct. And that's what it's so much harder to filter when we're supposed to be able to trust the information coming out of the government. So I just want to say that when you do send something over to us, I just want to say thank you for making it easy for me to understand it as a citizen here, because we have to filter that information and get it out so people understand it. Because all these other news agencies, there's so much extra weeds and stuff where people don't understand it. So we find ourselves having to break it down even further.
And so thank you for the information that you provide when you are in the situation of not only having to correct the media, but also having to correct the local government here. And sometimes it's just, an hour after the governor puts something out, you're rushing to put out the correct information, and people kind of go crazy here, when the wrong information's put out.
Oh yeah, no, I totally get it. In fact, people will reach right out to us directly. They'll send me messages. They'll call our office. They'll send us emails because they're so confused and they're getting distressed and they don't know, what the facts are. And I mean, that's the worst thing you can do in a disaster, pandemic, emergency situation. So yeah, that's something that we're trying to avoid as much as possible, and we try and stay as accurate as we can.
And thank you for that. So part of your news conference earlier today was about providing accurate information to the public. Can you tell us a little bit more about the information that you're putting out?
Can we break this down first, though?
Yeah.
Can we talk about what's already here first, Congressman, and then we'll go into what you're working on that's gonna get here?
Okay.
So people understand what's here right now, what they can avail of, and then we'll go into what the future will
hopefully holds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the first thing that we secured was, there's been several pieces of legislation, but the most recent one is the CARES Act. That provided for the first time in our island's history fully federally funded unemployment program. That's currently being rolled out at the moment. It's still not turned on. It has to do with logistics on the local side. I think that now we're waiting for them to implement a software that they procured and to get the applications available for the public. The funding has already been authorized, for quite some time, but they've actually received a specific allotment even, so some money's there.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of them, getting that program up and running and getting the public able to apply for it. So we have unemployment for those who've been affected by the pandemic. You're able to go and apply for unemployment, and if you qualify based on the income thresholds and the unemployment circumstances, then you'll be able to avail of that for the duration of your unemployment, as long as you continue to qualify.
And just to be clear, Congressman, this was actually a feat of Congress because while most other U.S. jurisdictions already had an unemployment system in place, Guam and other territories did not. And so this was something where you and the territorial delegates actually were quite vocal in getting this done for the territories and making sure that we were included. Would that be correct?
Yeah, actually, it's even more significant than that, because normally for us to be able to push something through on a territory basis, our heavyweight in the room is Puerto Rico. They're able to really move members. They have a lot of members in the Congress who have constituents of Puerto Rican descent. You have a number of them who themselves are of Puerto Rican descent, so they have a lot of affinity for being able to meet Puerto Rican needs when they become known. Mm-hmm. Puerto Rico actually already has unemployment, and so this unemployment that we're able to secure in the CARES Act didn't even, Puerto Rico didn't even need it. They already had their own, and so yeah, we were able to actually get it for Guam. We worked with Clearly. He was able to also get it for CNMI, Congresswoman Radawagan in American Samoa. So our smaller territories were actually able to get a very, very lucrative unemployment package. We are the only jurisdictions that are 100% federally funded in our unemployment program. So it's really significant, and yeah, we're very, very pleased to be able to provide that to the people of Guam.
Okay, I'm sorry for interrupting you as you were talking about that, but please continue on.
Oh, no, yeah, feel free to jump in whenever. So the next item that we secured in the CARES Act, of course, were the economic impact payments, commonly known as stimulus. That's providing $1,200 per filer, $2,400 per joint filer, an additional $500 per child age 16 and below. Mm-hmm. Those funds have been, again, authorized for quite some time. They even earmarked a specific amount. But that program also, too, required implementation at the local level that was conforming with federal law. I think one of the challenges that we uncovered during the course of our discussions with the IRS was that the local government was insisting on using 2018 as the base year, but the law specifically said that 2019 actually must be the year that's initially considered. What's happened now, though, that's kind of troubling to me is it appears that the angle that the local government has taken is that they're going to use 2019 as the base year, but they're caveating it on 2019 filings that have been processed. And that's kind of troubling. Yes. Because, basically, if they didn't process any, then too bad. That's not how it's supposed to be. It could be one of those, gray areas in the law that they're able to work it that way, but that's not the spirit of the law. That's really not how it's supposed to work out. I'm already getting lots of messages from constituents telling me that, the 2019 filings are the ones that they want to have considered. They had a baby, or they just got married, or
there was a divorce between 2018 and 2019. It's a big problem, Congressman. There are hundreds of people who have concerns about this, and you're absolutely right. And it is because there are big differences between 2018 and 2019. So there's an equity issue that's going on here.
And the equity issue kind of creates a compounded problem, because not only are we having our constituents impacted and our people, having to go through the trouble, but I'm concerned about, when the reconciliation has to take place and the numbers need to be, the ones and the zeros need to add up. And then we go back and we tell Treasury or we tell IRS, oops, we overpaid this person, or oops, underpaid that person, and then it just becomes, an even bigger mess to clean up. And that has broad ramifications, because not only does it create a credibility issue on the Guam side. But that credibility issue could impact our ability to, make a case for future payments. And that kind of speaks to the next legislation that I'm going to be talking about with you guys.
Okay.
Because it's going to also provide more funding for economic impact payments. And those economic impact payments are supposed to flow through the same channels. But if our channels were already messed up to begin with, how much more messed up is it going to be by refunding it through the same mechanism? So those are the compounded concerns that I'm having, and I sometimes feel like, when I raise these issues, the local government perceiving me as being ornery and difficult. But the reality is that there's a reason why we need to set these things up the right way from the get-go.
Yes.
It's because we want to make sure that we don't expose ourselves to that credibility risk. We don't create those kind of messy liabilities that we need to clean up later, and that we have a very clean, linear system that is able to freely flow the resources, that when more money comes in, we're able to pass it through straight away and not have to make our people wait so long while we try and clean up the steps. So, yeah, that's the economic impact in the CARES Act that we got through. We also got through very significant amounts of funding for healthcare, for higher education, for education. We got about $52 million for our school systems, public and private. So there's a lot of resources, $117 million for the local government to be able to use for, general pandemic expenses. Which,
have you seen that list of expenses, Congressman?
I have, and I sometimes, when there's a demand for transparency, sometimes we have a tendency to just try and put together a list that we can justify. But, when we circle back on it and we look at it, it's like, is that really the highest and best use of the funds? So, when we have nurses and frontliners clamoring for hazard pay that they're entitled to, and we have $117 million that can pay for it, and that just happens to, not be included there, it begs the question of, are we really deploying those resources, most effectively? So,
yeah.
But those are the things that we've gotten up there on the CARES Act. Very dramatic amounts of money. I mean, we're estimating on my office's side in excess of $1.5 billion in federal money that we're able to secure. That's about $980 million in unemployment, $134.5 million in economic impact payments, $117 million in direct COVID assistance, another $52 million in education funds, another $50-some billion in various healthcare supplementals, and then another $200 million in Small Business Administration paycheck protection plan loans and economic disaster assistance loans. So about $1.5 billion in the CARES Act alone, and that's in and of itself the single largest relief package that Guam has ever received.
And there's no reason, Congressman, there's no reason why we here should be suffering as a people. And if the government is not careful with how they spend this money, I believe I overheard you on your live earlier that we will be responsible to pay that money back.
Yes, we don't. If we mess it up, they're going to definitely come back and say, hey, you didn't spend this properly, and you got to remit those funds to us. So we don't want to do that, and that for two reasons. One, of course, is we don't have to pay back something that we could have used properly in the first place. Two is to pay that back when we're still trying to recover is just going to make recovery so much harder. And then the third reason is once something like that happens, once you misspend something, you have to pay it back. I mean, that's like a big red X on your performance sheet. I mean, you're basically saying that you're not handling resources properly, and that just creates all kinds of perception risks for us in the federal government. So I know getting it right is just really important. And we have the resources to do it. We have the whole reason why the local government gave emergency powers to the executive was for the executive to be able to use those emergency powers for the government to be able to mobilize in service of the people. And that's something that should have really taken place. I'm not, I don't want to go into detail about my opinions on that, but I think that it could have been exercised a lot more efficiently. And people have been waiting for quite some time for their stimulus payments and their unemployment, and we are where we are, and it's kind of unfortunate. But the good news, I want to try and find some good news, is that the money's coming out. It looks like this week on the stimulus payments. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, the unemployment gets situated quickly, and we can get those monies out to our people. But again, it's about in excess of $1.5 billion that we're estimating for the CARES Act.
Excellent. Thank you. Sorry, but please continue on the listing that you have.
Well, that's the main items on the CARES Act. The reason we called for the press conference today was for phase 2, the next rollout that we're pushing out, coming from the House. It's not called CARES 2. It's actually called the HEROES Act.
Okay.
It's HR 6800. And oh my goodness, I mean, if we thought the 1.5 billion was something to really be excited about, the HEROES Act actually takes things up a whole new level.
Okay. Sounds exciting.
It's actually pretty incredible. I mean, our leadership in the Congress has just been, totally zeroed in on territories these days. They're absolutely including us, and they're doing so in ways that are kind of mind blowing when I get into the numbers of it.
Okay.
First of all, we have direct support for the general government operations. A lot of the local governments have been coming back to the federal government saying, "Hey, look, this all the unemployment, all this shutdown is dramatically impacting our government coffers, and so revenues are being adversely impacted." And so they've appropriated a significant amount of money to support local government operations, but territories in particular, and Guam especially. I mean, the numbers are just astounding. I mean, it's wonderfully astounding. $20 billion to governments of the territories with fiscal impacts from the public health emergency.
Wow.
10 billion is to be divided equally among the 5 territories within 30 days of enactment. And so for Guam, that 10 billion comes out to $2 billion 471 million for 2020.
Wow.
I mean, that's incredible.
And that's all going to the Bank of Guam? Just asking.
Basically, the government of Guam will be able to use this to either supplant any lost revenue as a result of the pandemic, but it can also deploy the money to offset any negative impacts from the coronavirus disease. And so whether those negative impacts are public health impacts, whether those negative impacts are businesses basically losing customers because we don't have any tourism coming through, we can roll out all kinds of various stimulus packages with these funds, in addition to being the revenue shortfalls of the government. And so the local government budget, I believe, for this fiscal year, and Troy, you might be better done better on it than I do at this point, but I believe it's just under $1 billion.
Yeah.
And so, when we have $2.4 billion coming in for 2020, and with 2020, 8 months already passed, I mean, we have what, 2.5 times more than our actual budget?
Yeah, that is amazing, Congressman. We could get rid of our pension fund debt.
I mean, we will have to make sure we tag these things in a way that have a clear line to addressing something that was adversely impacted from the pandemic.
Oh, I see.
But I mean, look, I think we can get creative, and we can do GRT rebates to the point where it's almost like a GRT tax holiday for businesses.
Yeah.
Or we can do the same for property taxes, for example. We can roll out, a middle class stimulus where if we are able to certify that you aren't receiving any public assistance, then this is going to be an amount for you for being a taxpayer that doesn't have any subsidies whatsoever from the government. There's a lot of things we can do with this, and and that amount of money is just astronomical. And that's not all of it, Troy, for 2020.
Well, Congressman, I'm sorry, just on this 2.471 billion alone. I don't mean to be a sissy Sally about it, but that's a lot of money to give Governor Lulian Guerrero and the 35th Guam legislature to have control of. And though there will be federal guidelines to it and controls and all that stuff, Rico Blancaflor comments and makes a point. He says, Congressman Michael Nicolas, please run for governor. So hopefully by the time this money is ready to be spent, you're the governor and not Governor Lulian Guerrero, so we can have a little... I know you're not going to answer that, but you get my point about the questions on accountability and transparency, especially with an amount of money like that. So we can just hope that the local government does what's right.
I very much agree with you, and again, it just comes back to our credibility as a territory. I mean, if we're going to be given this, phenomenal sum, we need to show that we've deployed it in a very, very prudent, and we can be creative, but it has to just make sure that it fits within the lines.
Yeah.
And I think the people will be a lot more reassured. I would like to say if
you were the governor.
If our local government agents, like the legislature, was having more oversight, if the AG was being more proactive, if the public auditor was being more proactive, I think that would be that would give a lot more reassurance to our people, and we would have less of this angst out there that there's going to be malfeasance in the usage of these funds.
Yeah.
But I can only advocate for those things so much. At the end of the day, my job is to when these resources are available, to pull them in as much as possible, and then to I will press for the accountability. I'll ask for the oversight on the congressional side if that's going to help. But I mean, when we talk about Team Guam, a lot of people like to use that to try and, compel people to just give them what they want or do it the way they want to do it. Mm-hmm. The Team Guam approach is supposed to be, we're supposed to go in there and do our jobs and make sure that the people of Guam are coming out ahead when we're all doing our jobs. I think that's what the Team Guam approach really means.
Yes.
And we're having a lot of money coming in. Again, this has just been introduced. It hasn't passed. But in the event that it does, these resources will be available, and we're going to have to make sure that we deploy them in the right way, and we have only so much time to do it. So that's 2.471 billion, but Troy, that's only the equally divided 10 billion. We're also having on top of that 2.471 an additional 212. Because another 10 billion is provided to territories based on their share of population.
Okay.
And so, of course, the lion's share of that is going to go to Puerto Rico because they have 3 million plus people, but we're still getting $212 million on top of the 2.47 billion.
Wow.
So that's about 2.6,
almost 2.7.
Yeah, 2,683 million for 2020. So I mean that's just the first part of my presentation here on HR 6800, and that alone is just that's phenomenal. Again, I want to really credit my committee chairs and the House leadership for really wanting to include territories. I mean, we always make it a point whenever we have our meetings and our conversations, and we know we have all these conference calls and we bring up the territory case. But this is just a historic response, and so hopefully we're able to get this measure passed and avail of these resources.
Yeah, I hope so.
2021. Yeah, going into 2021, the government is going to get another 106 million. So the lion's share is going to be in 2020. Okay. We do have a 2021 allocation of another 106.
Okay.
And so that's for general government operations and being able to deploy for any negative impacts on the coronavirus disease.
Okay.
Going on, we have on HR 6800, we are doing a round 2 of the economic impact payments. And that's why, as I mentioned earlier, with the CARES Act funding, getting that system right is so important from the onset, because in HR 6800, we have a second round of funding.
Okay.
Again, it's going to be $1,200 per individual. But this time, HR 6800 is including minors up to the age of 24 if they're still in college, or up to the age of 18 if they're not still in college. So I know that a lot of our constituents have been reaching out saying, hey, I got a minor who's 17, how come they're not included? That was just the way the CARES Act was written. HR 6800 would remedy that, and it would provide for those minors an amount that they should have been receiving if they were properly included.
I'll tell you this, if I had a kid who was 19 and wasn't in college, and this thing passes Congress, I'd be like, you're going to get your butt in college right now, boy.
I guess it's about it. Yeah, it's kind of like an incentive to go to school. But yeah, so it also would include adult dependents who qualify for $500.
Oh, wonderful.
There's been a number of adult dependents who,
that's
people are including. Yeah, I mean, like if you have a adult dependent with a disability that you carry on your taxes, I mean, of course, right? Why are we excluding them? And it's one of those tragic oversights of the CARES Act that we're hoping to fix with HR 6800.
That's excellent.
Another item, I think this is another really, really big thing, and we've been pushing for this for a while, is there's language in HR 6800 that would reimburse the EITC of the government of Guam 75%.
Wow.
So yeah, that would basically solve it's a $56 million on average liability. It would basically pump $40 million back into the revenue stream. And this is not just temporary for the pandemic. This is actually a permanent fix if we're able to get this passed.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is historic.
Yeah, that's one of our long-standing legacy issues that we were able to get included here.
That's exciting.
Wow, that is, wow, first war claims, now EITC. This is something.
No, again, the measure needs to pass, but I mean, the really good thing is that the Congress is putting these things into these bills, which means that it's already on their radar. The chairs are very much aware of it. The committee staff know to be including these things. So this is the second time, actually, this language has showed up. The first time was when there was a disaster relief package that was put together from Puerto Rico because of the earthquakes they were suffering from. We were able to get this language included there. And so, it's very clear now that at least on the House side, there's a firm commitment among the members of Congress and most especially among the chairman and the committee staff of the Ways and Means Committee to begin, tagging this language wherever they can. And that's the huge first step to getting things like this done. And so we're very, very happy that that's been included here just for being symbolic in and of itself. But again, if the measure passes, then we're done. That's something to really cross our fingers on.
Congressman, during my time at the governor's office, I always did remember when we looked at the numbers and when in speaking with Standard & Poor's and Moody's, that if Congress rebated the government of Guam for the cost or even 75% of the EITC, it would fix the structural imbalance in the general fund. So this is way more than symbolic, sir. This is astounding.
Yeah, I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic.
Okay. Well, you're such a humble guy. You're not like me. You're such a humble guy. I'm all like, let's throw a party.
For me to. I want it to be done. I mean, then I'll be able to say, okay, we got it done. Kind of like claims and stuff. I like to talk about what's out there, but I don't like to really celebrate it until we get it done. But the good news is, it's constantly showing up in the legislation that's passing through that has windows to tag it. And this is another window. And if we can keep this language in here, that's gonna be phenomenal.
Excellent.
But what the congressman is doing, getting all this funding, I just want to say, it's almost like me giving my child a grocery list with the money and telling my child, go and get these groceries. And then my child coming back with nothing on that list.
Oh, you're talking about the governor as the child.
Yes. Yes, that is what this is.
Congressman, I'm sorry. That is going to continue to be the concern for a lot of people. Is you're out there getting this funding for Guam and fixing a lot of structural problems. And then it gets remitted to the local government of Guam. And then it's like,
They're crashing the load.
They're crashing the load, Eric said.
It must be frustrating.
And I know that's not your department, and you already said you're hopeful that that the people who are in charge of the accountability for funds locally will step up to the plate. And as a media, as part of the media, we will push on our end on that.
Yeah, we only have so many structural problems in our government, and when we fix them, those are like very, very small windows of opportunity for us to truly change our trajectory.
Yeah.
We've been talking about these problems in our community for so long: broken schools, broken roads, broken hospital, broken this, broken that. And when we have these resources to make things better, that's our one window of opportunity to really get ourselves on the right track. And if these resources come in and it just continues to be, business as usual in terms of the misspending that has plagued us in our history, then our people are going to, eventually these structural problems are going to quote unquote be fixed, but we would have just created a new problem, and we wouldn't have any opportunities in the future to really right ourselves. So, I mean, there is a point to what's being said that, when these resources come in and we don't deploy them, as efficiently as we can, we're losing out on chances for us to really change our course of history.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We can also fix our tax system. All of this can be done. I'm excited. I'm super excited.
Me too. I'm sorry. Is there more to the HEROES Act that we should be hearing about?
There's actually a lot more.
Okay. I'm sorry. Please continue.
No, it's fine. So, one of the things that people have been really worried about, if you're a homeowner, is if you lose your job, how are you going to pay for your house? I've gotten several people worried about bankruptcies and foreclosures reaching out to me. There is a homeowner assistance fund that, in particular for territories, is setting aside $200 million for insular territories.
Okay.
I want to clarify, an insular territory basically is every territory except Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So $200 million is actually not going to be used by Puerto Rico,
okay,
which is significant because the rest of us are much smaller, and so $200 million goes a lot farther when it's just divided up amongst the 4 insular territories versus including Puerto Rico. So $200 million for homeowner assistance. That basically goes to homeowners struggling to afford their housing, directly or indirectly due to the impacts of the pandemic.
Okay.
It'll help with their mortgage payment, their property taxes, their property insurance, their utilities, any other related housing costs.
Okay.
We also have tenant-based rental assistance. We have a lot of people out there reaching out saying, I can't pay my rent. There's a $100 billion emergency rental assistance program.
Okay.
That's available to all the states and territories. I believe the territory share of that also comes out to a maximum of $200 million. But based on my rough back of the envelope calculations that we did on the number of houses that we have in our community, about 11,000 plus are residential homes, and then another 11,000 are also residential homes, but they're tenant occupied.
Okay.
And so the $200 million for both programs should provide, based on the average mortgage payment and the average rent, it should provide enough of a backstop for everybody to be able to make sure they have a resource to pay their mortgages or pay their rents.
Okay.
Another item that we have here is so on the unemployment, you know how the program is $345 all the way to the end of the year,
yes,
with a $600 bump all the way to the end of July. The HR 6800 increases the $600 bump, extends it actually to the end of January 31st.
Okay.
So this would actually be a maximum of $945, all else being equal. A maximum of $945 all the way to January 31st.
Oh, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Okay.
Yeah, because otherwise the 600 would have sunsetted at the end of July, but now it carries all the way to the end of January.
Okay.
That's for the unemployment assistance. Another item we have, and this one's really, really big. We're able to secure $1 billion to the insular territories. Again, insular being only the 4 of us, not including Puerto Rico, for building hospitals and critical infrastructure, as well as general technical assistance in responding to coronavirus.
Wow.
And so that comes out to of that 1,945 million is available for capital improvement project grants for hospitals and critical infrastructure. So, DMH has constantly been, a huge cost albatross in terms of trying to just even keep the electrical grid from burning out.
Yep.
We have $1 billion that can go to fixing our hospital.
Wow.
This will need to be shared between the 4 territories, but again, even if we just get 250 million out of the 1 billion, which would be a co-equal share, that's dramatic in terms of being able to get our hospital to where it needs to be.
Up to par.
Well, GRMC was built for 250 million, if I'm not mistaken, to include the bells and whistles.
Yeah, I've been seeing some GMH numbers that have been going around for like 400 million, and that could be kind of like raising my eyebrow, but I really need to just kind of stay in my lane a little bit.
No, please venture out of your lane, because honestly, Congressman, over the past 7 weeks, the only reason the people have been able to get good information that has protected us against corruption is because you've ventured out of your lane a few times. And so please do venture out of your lane, because the people rely on that.
Yeah, well, I really can't help it. If I see something that's going to cost 100 million that I think we can spend 250 million on, then I'll definitely say something about it.
Thank you. God bless you for that.
Yeah. But before we even get there, we do have 945 million for capital improvement projects for the hospitals. So that will just, this alone. If this was the one thing that we had in this bill, that would be phenomenal.
Yes.
Because fixing GMH and just finally ending the endless cash drain that has been in terms of just trying to keep it from falling apart. That would just be transformative for our future. So we have that in here. We also have Medicaid exception added for COFA migrants. Right now, our COFA migrants do not qualify for Medicaid. They're all covered under MIP, which is fully funded by the local dollars, and it's not matched by any Medicaid funding. They will be included under Medicaid if we are able to pass HR 6800 and have that language kept in there.
Wow.
And that's dramatic because, not only would including them afford us to be able to use Medicaid resources, but if you can recall, about 6 months ago, we were able to actually increase our Medicaid funding and our Medicaid match. Our Medicaid match used to be 55-45. It's now, I believe, 83 or 83-19, if I'm not mistaken. And so, we have a lot more capacity to be able to fund this. And so being able to include COFA migrants under Medicaid will just completely remove the MIP liability that has been. And it will be good for our COFA migrants because, we want to be able to keep them healthy as well. One thing we've learned in this whole coronavirus disease is that making sure that everybody's as healthy as they can be is something that's important from the get-go.
Yeah.
Another item on the healthcare side is this legislation will provide the federal government to fully subsidize COBRA. And so all the way to January 2021, if anybody lost their job and they're, in COBRA, if you lose your job and you had health insurance on your job, then that federal law, the COBRA Act, allows you to keep your health insurance, but you got to pay, you got to pay for it out of your own pocket, as opposed to your employer having a co-share. With this language, the federal government will cover it 100%.
Wow.
And so anybody who lost their job, they wouldn't have to keep forking out for their own family health insurance. And, on our island, we don't have the Affordable Care Act. A lot of our children are covered under family plans. And so those family plans can be incredibly expensive, especially when you're paying for it entirely out of your own pocket.
Because the COBRA Act... The COBRA Act, Congressman, you have to pay 110% of the premium. And I believe the 10% is the administration fee for you being outside of the company.
So this would be 100% funded by the federal government if this passes then?
That's correct.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. What else do we have here? We have a lot. Let me just make sure that I'm not getting too far... I'm trying to list this in order of kind of have it make sense here because we really put our listing together in a hurry because we all pretty much concluded this today in terms of the final components, and I've been up ever since last night. I haven't really slept because this has just we've been burning the oil on this one.
Thank you for
We have a
that.
lot of support for veterans. We're increasing by 25% the amount paid to disabled veterans to assist with their daily activities. Grants. It grants prior authorization for any emergency care sought by veterans at non-VA hospitals, including COVID-19 related diagnosis, treatment, and ambulance transportation. And it also includes the cost of administering any vaccine. So all of our veterans will be able to get full COVID-19 treatment if they were ever impacted by it. There are some expansions to the SNAP program that would, of course, proportionally include Guam.
A lot of people have been asking about that, Congressman, is the expansion in the threshold, in the poverty line threshold for SNAP. So thank you. That's good news.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've been hearing that too, so we're very happy with that. I think the biggest one here to talk about is something that we've been hearing about a lot from our constituents, and that's something called Heroes Fund.
Okay.
I think you guys will actually like the Heroes Fund too, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
The Heroes Fund is basically it's a pay increase to essential workers who perform essential work. And essential work is work which is performed during the COVID-19 public health emergency that is not performed while teleworking, involves regular interaction of others or items handled by others, and is work in any of the 33 enumerated areas of work. And so I have here, and if you bear with me, I have the list of all the 33 enumerated areas. Before I go down the list, of course, I'll explain what the benefit is. This fund provides that employers that apply for and receive these grants will pay essential workers $13 per hour premium pay on top of their regular wages.
Wow.
So everybody will get a $13 raise basically while we're under this public health emergency.
And this is both public sector and private sector workers?
Yes, we have the list here. I'll go down it as soon as in just a second. It's capped at $10,000, so basically getting a $13 per hour raise. You can't make more than $10,000 in increased compensation for the duration of the emergency, the public health emergency. But everybody basically can get a $10,000 raise, $13 an hour increase in pay. And so these the jobs that qualify. Let me pull up make sure I have it organized properly.
A lot of people in the private sector have been asking about something like this.
Yeah, we've been hearing it too. So it's about 4 pages worth, so if you just bear with me.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Those that will be eligible are any engaged in first responder work in the public sector or private sector, including services in response to emergencies that have the potential to cause death or serious bodily injury, such as police, fire, emergency medical, protective. So protective, someone messaged me saying, what about security guards? I think that's covered under protective.
Okay.
Child maltreatment, domestic violence, and correctional services. So basically, everybody whose job it is to provide, security or safety or policing or emergency response would qualify.
Okay.
And this is public and private. So our police officers, our firefighters,
marshals,
our security guards, marshals. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Healthcare work physically provided in inpatient settings. So anybody who works, in a inpatient hospital. Healthcare work physically provided in outpatient settings. So everybody working in clinics. These are our nurses. These are our medical assistants, our doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Pharmacy work. Any work physically performed in a facility that performs medical testing and diagnostic services, including laboratory testing, laboratory processing. Home and community-based work, including home health care, residential care, assistance with daily living, any services provided by direct care workers, personal care aides, behavioral health work requiring physical interaction with individuals, including mental health services and substance use disorder prevention, nursing care, child care services, social services, including social work, case management, social and human services, child welfare, family services, all basically the whole social work gamut.
Mm-hmm.
Public health work conducted at state, local, territorial, and tribal government public health agencies.
Okay.
1 second here, because
My hand is getting. I'm writing everything down, and my hand is getting clumsy. Yeah.
It also includes grocery work, physically performed at grocery stores.
Oh wow!
Supermarkets,
Holy.
stores.
You know those are the ones most at risk. Have been the grocery store workers.
And
Yeah.
they've been reaching out to us too, and you know, we're very happy that they're included here. So retail facilities that specialize in you know, grocery, medical goods and supplies, they would be covered. Another group that you know, makes a large segment of our workforce is restaurant work. They would be covered as well.
Wow.
Including carry-out, drive-through, food delivery, anything that requires physical interaction with individuals or food products. So even if you're working in the kitchen, you'll be included. Food production work involving the physical interaction with food products. Those are all agriculture, farming, and fishing. They would all be covered.
Wow.
Transportation work, that includes our taxi drivers, our bus drivers, our stroll drivers. They would all be included in this as well.
Okay.
Anyone that does what do we have here? Anybody that works physically in a warehouse or other facility in warehousing that has to do with store distribution of goods.
Wow.
Cleaning work and building maintenance work physically performed on the grounds of the facility. So custodians, janitors, repair and maintenance services, they would all be covered. Anyone who works in the removal of or collection or disposal of commercial or solid waste. This is for you guys. Anyone who works in the gathering, processing, disseminating, and delivery of news and information that serves the public interest to the public through mass media, including television, radio, newspapers, etc.
Get the F out of here. We qualify?
Yeah, you would get a $13 an hour raise, but not more than $10,000.
Hey, we're good with that. Biba Congress.
Educational work is included, so you know, everyone who works in anything that basically is required to operate a school facility, whether it's you know, the Sodexo folks or the school aides or the teachers, anything that involves including early childhood programs, by the way, preschool programs, elementary, secondary education, higher education.
Okay.
Anyone who works in laundry work, laundromats, laundry service companies.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Anyone who's going to be working during the elections. So I guess even our poll watchers probably would qualify for this as well. Anybody who works in hazardous materials. Anyone who works in a mortuary or a funeral or cremation, burial, cemetery-related services.
Okay. We have a friend actually who does.
We have a couple of them.
Yeah, we have a couple of friends.
Wow. I mean, this really covers a huge range. People who do physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech-language pathology, respiratory therapy, other therapy services. Anyone who works in dental care work requiring physical interaction with patients. Work performed by employees of the U.S. Postal Service. And work at hotel and commercial lodging facilities, but this is only if they are used as COVID-19 migration and containment measures. I want to dig a little deeper to this to see if it includes general hotel workers.
Okay.
But I do need to re-reference because, you know, there's a lot of like overlap. Like, for example, the maintenance folks. I'm sure housekeeping should absolutely be included in something like that.
Okay.
As well as groundskeeping. So those things we would need to dig a little deeper to make sure that they're fine-tuned. But that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a very long list, and as you can see, it's very public and very private in terms of who's identified as an essential worker and who would qualify for the $13 per hour premium pay on top of their regular wages.
Congressman, can you send us that list? I mean, I wrote down a lot of it, but I'm sure I missed some.
Yeah, no, I'll make sure we get this to you.
Okay, thank you. Wow.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff here. There's tax credits to prevent business interruption. There's also additional relief for workers in terms of certain tax deductions. One of the ones that are more common is the educator deduction is increased from $250 to $500. And there's a bunch of other deductions here that are listed as well. I'm just kind of glancing through to make sure there's nothing generally that I missed that's very That's very important. There's another. There's another 450 million to insular territories. So again, only the four, not including Puerto Rico. To insular territories based on population share to support funding for elementary and secondary schools, including charter and non-public schools and public post-secondary institutions. The funding use is flexible, can be used but not limited to costs associated with making up instructional time, including teacher, school leader, classified school employee, personnel costs, providing school-based support for impacted students, families, and staff, including counseling, mental health services, family engagement efforts, and the coordination of physical health services, costs associated with sanitation and cleaning of the school, and professional development for employees. That's 450 million. With the CARES Act was about 52 million for education. This is like 9 times that. So that's pretty good. We'll split with the other territory, but our share will be the largest. I would estimate that we would probably have maybe about 120 million minimum of that. So at least double what we got in the CARES Act for education. But that's pretty much the gist of what's in HR 6800. It would be incredibly transformative if we're able to get this through. The current state of it is we're going to be passing this in the House most likely by the end of the week, and then we'll see how the Senate reacts. I'm sure over the next couple of days we'll get the Senate reactions kind of filtering through on the various media channels, and we'll see what their initial reaction is. But one of the things that I mentioned on my conference call is I'm going to be reaching out to the Republican National Committee on Guam. We worked very closely to get war claim through the House and the Senate. The Senate's Republican controlled, so it's very important that we have a good bipartisan approach on getting our things through. And the Republican National Committee really helped with war claims. They really helped with the CARES Act. I'm going to reach out to them again to ask them to help me with this HEROES Act, so we can try and protect the territory language as much as possible, and not have any of these things line itemed out if the House and the Senate go into negotiations. But right now, the House is committed. This is what the House wants to do. Territories, like I said in the conference calls, are always brought up, and I get goosebumps every time I hear it now, because we've been advocating so hard for this over the last year. I know that my colleague Kandit has dedicated his career to the same thing, and it's all coming to fruition. I mean, we're really seeing territories. We already got 1.5 billion, and now we have another. I don't even know how much this is right now, but just on the government of Guam funding alone is 2.683 billion. Yeah. I mean, it's just phenomenal. So. Yeah, that's pretty much what we got here on the HEROES Act, HR 6800.
On the HEROES Act, Congressman, I didn't hear two kinds of work. Child care centers. You did? Yeah. Okay, and okay, never mind. It was mentioned, and then also the federal sector. Is that included?
I think the federal workers are all included if they fall within the categories.
If they fall under, if they're working because of COVID, right?
The physical contact.
Yeah,
and so they're a federal healthcare worker, a federal first responder, any of these things that we mentioned that had a public context. If that public context is federal or local, it will apply.
All right. Okay, that's it.
Congressman, in the House, are you seeing bipartisan support for HR 6800?
I'm hoping. This is just hot off the press. Of course, the Democrats are going to coalesce behind it. Really, the Republican reaction in the House is going to be the canary in the coal mine. If we have a lot of Republicans coming over and supporting this, that's actually going to be a very strong signal to the Senate that a lot of the language is something that's going to need to be preserved. On the other hand, if we see things really, really just entrench on party lines, then that's going to kind of be a warning sign that the Senate is going to be pretty stubborn on getting this measure passed. So, the next 24 to 48 hours are going to be really telling in terms of Senate feedback publicly, and in terms of seeing how the Republicans in the House line up on the bill. But I'm optimistic. I mean, what's really driving this is that the state and local territorial governments, they're having revenue problems, and those revenue problems are not going to go away. Yeah. And that in and of itself is going to be a tipping point that's going to require some kind of compromise. And so if we're able to keep as much of this language intact for the territories, when that compromise rolls around, we should be right there on the train with this. So I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that we'll be able to at least see something come to fruition.
Well, we're gonna get on the, when we're done with this live stream, we're gonna get on the phone with the Republicans whom we know. We're gonna try and get a hold of Senator Tony Atta, the chairman of the Republican Party, with Senator Tello Taitigui, the minority leader, and Senator Jim Moylan, who's been a friend of Kandit Land, and ask them, hey, what are you guys waiting for? Send your letter in now.
Yeah, my staff's drafting the letter to them, so we're going to formally make the request.
Okay.
I'm not trying to put them on the spot or anything. I think I'm sure, just like the rest of the community, this is the first time that they're hearing of it. But like I said, they've been incredibly supportive of anything that's good for Guam in war claims, the CARES Act. I cannot imagine them having any kind of oppositional posture to this. And their advocacy is going to be very critical in making sure that the Republicans in the Congress and the Republicans, most especially in the Senate, because Republicans control the Senate, their help is going to be critical. So I'm looking forward to working with them.
Well, thank you so much, Congressman, for all of this. You just gave us a lot of work to do, and I was telling Johnny and Eric today that I was going to take the day off, but I'm not going to take the day off anymore.
Malert.
Thank you, Congressman, for all of this work. I do have one unrelated question. Actually, it's not a question, but more of a request, and that is, the administration has cut us out here on Guam. The administration has cut us out of basically almost everything. Only certain directors respond to us. There's a gag order that several administration officials have told us about. We're trying to help the inmates and detainees at the Department of Corrections because we're more and more every day, more of them are calling us and telling us about basically third world conditions and the mistreatment that they're going through over at DOC. The government of Guam is not answering any of our questions on that. So I wanted to ask, is this something that we bring to the attention of the U.S. Attorney or the FBI, Bureau of Prison? I don't know. Who do we talk to if the local government is not doing anything about the conditions of the prison? For example, they're not even being tested for COVID, even when they're showing symptoms of it, and they're not getting cleaning supplies. So it's basically dirty, dingy. Their food supply has been cut in half, etc.
That's that definitely you would want to reach out to the Office of Civil Rights in the Department of Justice.
Okay.
Because there are some basic humanitarian rights that are still retained by inmates that are incarcerated in U.S. soil, and if there's anything going on that could be violating those very basic protections, then absolutely the Office of Civil Rights should be notified, and the right federal authorities should be looking into it if the local government isn't going to be responsive.
Okay, thank you. I just needed a place to call. I appreciate that. I think we got that number and that email address from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Claire Castro from our feed is asking, and she says she's sorry if the question was asked, but can the funds be deposited into another designated financial institution? That is a lot of wealth for one bank. She's talking about how money is normally wired into the Bank of Guam, where the government of Guam's two main checking accounts are.
How do we look into that?
That's a very good question. One of the risks is that the federal government, of course, banks are FDIC insured, but it's only to a certain amount. The Treasury, I would venture, is only going to release funds on on an as-needed basis in terms of, this is how much we need for this amount, and they'll probably send over 100 million at a time. So the Bank of Guam, I don't think we'll see 2.6 billion just show up one day. I'm sure it'll be broken out. It does have to be equally divided among the territories within 30 days of enactment.
Okay.
But in terms of that really will just be an allotment. In terms of actual remittance, I would venture that the Treasury will be a little bit more prudent and not, stick $2.6 billion into one institution because, I mean, it does present institution risk if there's just for whatever reason the institution were to fail. That's federal money that all of a sudden would be jeopardized. So, yeah, there's nothing that we can do federally to mandate that money goes to a different bank. There are separation of powers issues, and the executive branch does have cash management authority, so they are able to determine who the depository institution is for the administration.
Well, if you were the governor, that would be a different story, right? I'm just saying, if you were the governor, we wouldn't have these problems. You should get your butt back home and run for governor is all I'm saying. And a lot of people are saying the same thing, yo.
We're just very appreciative with everything that you're doing, Congressman. We know you're working extra hard for the people of Guam, and that's all I gotta say.
Congressman, is there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, we're just very grateful that all of our advocacy work is really paying off. But again, we can front load things as much as we want, but for it to actually get to the people and to help the people, it's going to again require that Team Guam approach of really putting the people first and making sure that the actions that we take and the decisions that we make are to execute in order to achieve the maximum benefit with the resources that are provided within the parameters of the law. And the law is pretty clear in a lot of instances, and just because we have flexibility, I mean, that's usually granted in order for us to be able to meet needs that are unanticipated. But we shouldn't be having flexibility turn into liability. Yeah. And that's just something that we need to really, really watch out for. I really, as much as it looks like I like to, use a smoke signal all the time, I really don't. I would much rather prefer to just focus on stuff out here, but I'm going to if I have to. Our credibility as an island is on the line. Yes. And the welfare of our people is all of our responsibility. And so we're just going to all have to do what we're supposed to do. And if any of us just so happens not to be, we have a responsibility as public servants to make sure that we're all trying to keep everybody, answerable to the people and answerable to the law.
Governor Michael Nicolas, Congressman Michael Nicolas, thank you so much for your time today. We very much appreciate it, and for calling Kandit. And I'm sorry, for allowing us to call you and for inviting us this morning to your news conference. Thank you so much for spending this time with Kandit Land, very much. You should see when you're done with us, read the comments. They've been very complimentary. Yes. And there are people who also have specific types of questions if your staff wanted to reach out to any of them.
Yeah, if there's anybody that has any questions, please, shoot me a message or, call our office. It's 475-6453. Go ahead and leave a message. We always respond. Oftentimes the voicemail we need to pick up because the phone lines are inundated. Shoot us an email at michael.sanicolas@mail.house.gov. But we take quality control and response time very seriously, especially during these times. I think one of the biggest things that we've been getting a lot of compliments on is just being responsive. Even if the answer isn't what people want to hear, they're just grateful that they're able to get some closure. Yes. And just being responsive to the public is something that we're taking very seriously. And yeah, please just reach out and we'll try and help you find answers.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, Congressman.
Thanks, Troy. Later, Johnny.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Adios.
Bye, Eric.
Shoot.
He said shoot. That was nice. Now 1 hour and 5 minutes with Guam's Congressman. There were a lot of questions that were scrolling up through the thing, and I'm sorry that we weren't able to get your questions across to the Congressman. But you heard what he said. Call his office at 475-6453. Was it 6453 or 6543? It's either 6453
Google it.
or 6543. Yes, just Google. But his email address is michael.sannicolas@mail.house.gov. And
I think his website is sannicolas.house.gov.
Yes, but his email address is the suffix is mail.house.gov. Yeah.
Okay, they're also sending us over this HR 6800.
Okay.
So we're going to be able to post it on our website so
Okay.
people can read through it and check it out and get familiar so that when those things do come in, we get to stand up if we have to and fight for this. This is what we enjoy doing. We enjoy making sure people get fed. We enjoy people getting what needs to be get to them, right? And that's what we do here at Kandit. We make sure they do what's right.
I enjoy getting under the skin of the governor's office.
Yes, he does. But I want to, before we move forward, Troy, I want to call either the JIC or Public Health because we really this really does make sense if you read that comment. Because it's true and no one's asking about it.
That's a very good question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is...
Yes,
Okay.
my guardian.
Now, okay. Now, riddle us this. We had an hour and 5 minutes with the congressman providing nonstop information, answering every single question.
Right.
And now we're going to call the Joint Information Center. And let's just see how this goes. Hi, Nick. It's Troy. You had the uncomfortable privilege of answering my phone call today.
Oh shoot. Okay, I'll do my best.
Look, you're on with Kandit Lan, and Johnny and Eric are here with me.
Hi, Rick.
Nick, it's Nick.
Or Nick. I'm sorry, Nick.
Don't worry, it's not the worst thing I've been called.
Nick, we have a few questions, but we're gonna start with this one from one of our viewers. It's why is the government of Guam doing minimal testing again? They ramped up a week ago, saying they have the ability to test hundreds per day, and after less than a week are back to hardly any. Can we know why there's been a significant decrease in testing that's being done on a daily basis?
Okay, I would have to pose that question with public health. We weren't given an update as far as the last mention of the community-based testing that occurred, I believe, last week. That's
Yeah.
what you guys were tracking as well, right?
No, every day.
Well, just the everyday testing that happens, even at the Guam Public Health Northern Satellite Office. Nick, who is specifically identified as the Joint Information Coordinator and then as the alternate Joint Information Coordinator?
So, I'm not entirely sure.
Get the hell out of here. There's no document right there that says who's the Joint Information Coordinator. Remember back in our time, it was very specific.
Yeah, I do, and I suspect that you're asking.
I'm asking who's in charge of the Joint Information Center. Yes.
Usually, traditionally operates, right? So this is just for the benefit of your listening audience. We take our cues from the governor's communications department, so that hasn't changed.
Who specifically? It has to be. It's very clear. So you remember back in the day, I was the Joint Information Coordinator. Philip Leon Guerrero was the assistant the alternate Joint Information Coordinator, and the public affairs officer or the spokesman for the Joint Information Center was D. Cruz.
Correct, right.
So what is the system now?
We take our lead from the governor's communication department.
Is it Janela Carrera is the Joint Information Coordinator and Crystal Paco is the assistant?
Those duties are split up between Janela and Crystal.
They're split up. Okay. And what role does Carlo Branch play?
My understanding is Carlo is the senior policy advisor or something to that effect. He may be assisting with communications at some level, but I'd much rather you
I don't want to speak for ALUT's policy advisor or their communications department. So, it does seem that he is assisting in some of the communication matters. But if it's something formal, I don't know if it's something that's been formalized. That's what I have to say.
Okay. Well, the Joint Information Center, which is where you're at, and you're assigned there, right? They did release something 2 days ago saying that, or it might have been 3 days ago, that the Abbott ID Now machine actually hasn't been used by the government of Guam since April 16, which is a direct contradiction to a number of Joint Information Center releases and statements by the Joint Information Center and by the governor herself that indicate that the Abbott ID Now machine has been used ever since. So we're wondering what's the truth? Has the Abbott ID Now machine been used, or was the governor and the Joint Information Center not telling the truth for more than a month?
So going back to your experiences here, right? So we're only reporting on information that's given to us. So of our who is the lead agency is the.
Hello, Nick.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you a little better now.
Oh, okay. Where did I lose you at?
You were saying we only are able to give information that another agency.
Okay. So the information that we're providing to the public comes from all of the other partner agencies, right? So in this case, Public Health is the lead agency for this pandemic response.
Yes.
So we work a lot with them, and again, I know you're aware of this, and so I'm only going to assume that this is for the benefit of the listening audience. So Public Health is the lead agency, so anything having to do with testing comes from them and is provided to us, and we take that information and we bid into our Joint Information Center releases. So if it's something specific, I would an inquiry specific to the testing, I would then pose that to our partner agency, which would be Public Health.
Well, what I'm asking is why the Joint Information Center put out two very different stories that contradict each other, and the information came from Public Health. If the information was vetted by the Joint Information Center before going out, I mean, didn't you guys notice that the statements were contradictory?
Shoot, you know what? I'd have to go back and look at the two JIC releases that you're talking about, just so that I could be a little bit more informed about it. I do take part in the review process, but if it was something that I missed, I do want to make sure that we're able to provide you some clarification. Maybe you wouldn't happen to remember the release numbers, would you?
No, I don't remember the release number. But as for the statements by Public Health and by the governor and the state surgeon and the Joint Information Center, there were multiple, and they began April 23rd.
Okay, I can look that up.
The other thing, Nick, is we're getting information that a behavioral health employee who was working the crisis hotline tested positive more than a week ago for COVID-19, and Public Health still has not conducted the contact tracing. Is the Joint Information aware of this? And if so, can we get a comment about it?
I have not been made aware of it. I can check with Jenna as soon as she's out of her meeting. But no, I'm not tracking any Guam behavioral health employee.
Okay, can we get a response to that after you're able to talk to Jenna or whoever might be able to have
sure,
the information?
and I'll do the same thing. I'll pose the inquiry with Public Health and have you CC'd on that email thread.
Well, and thank you for doing that. There were I'm looking at the email right now that you sent 7 days ago. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 questions that we asked that you transcribed and sent over to Janela Carrera, Jenna Blas, Crystal Paco, Grace Berdallo at Public Health, and Bertha Tyron at Public Health.
Right.
Not all of them were public health related. Most of them actually were politically related, as in to the governor's office. And as for the 2 public health questions that we did ask, it was Crystal Paco who responded to us and not public health, and it was regarding the testing. And actually, the response that we got on that is one of the contradictory statements that I was talking about in the previous conversation we just had. But aside from the so-called answers to those 2 questions, which were not really answered by Crystal Paco, there are 10 other questions that still have not been answered, and this was 7 days ago. We have sent daily reminders and included in the reminders the lieutenant governor, the governor, the governor's new chief of staff, as well as the lieutenant governor's special assistant Stephanie Flores, and Carlo Branch, the governor's staff assistant and chief apologist, and still no answers from the Joint Information Center, Public Health, or the governor's office. So there are a couple here that are more urgent than others, and I want to reiterate these questions. Why haven't DOC inmates and detainees been tested for COVID-19? That's one question. Have you guys not received an answer on that yet?
I have not. Yeah, I have not.
So in the past week, no one in the Joint Information Center has followed up with a situation as critical as inmates and detainees at DOC who are showing symptoms of COVID-19 not being tested?
Generally, if there is an inquiry that goes unanswered, we do make follow-ups.
So who made the follow-up to Department of Corrections?
I did not make the follow-up with Department of Corrections, but I did make the follow-up with the people that are indicated on the email.
Nick, did anyone in the Joint Information Center send any question to the Department of Corrections about this?
No, I did not. I sent these out to communications department who have easier access to cabinet. I don't have that information. So I wanted to give you the quickest way of response that I knew best, and generally, if the inquiry is coming from the governor's office, that would usually carry a little bit more weight than the Joint Information Center.
So are you confirming that neither Janela Carrera, Crystal Paco, nor Jenna Blas sent any kind of inquiry at all regarding this DOC question to DOC?
No, I'm not going to confirm that. I don't know if those inquiries were sent to DOC. If they were, then that was not shared with me.
Okay, since you're not able to confirm that, then under Chapter 5 of Title 10, also known as the Sunshine Reform Act of 1999, also known as the Freedom of Information Act, which does not require me to submit a formal written request for information, just right now, with all of our audience as witnesses to this request at 3:48 p.m., I hereby request copies of to be electronically or digitally sent to me via my email at troy@kanditnews.com of all emails from Janela Carrera, Crystal Paco, and Jenna Blas to the director or the deputy director or the warden of the Department of Corrections from 7 days ago until today.
Okay. I will pass it along.
Okay, and
just so I have it clear, or I can timestamp this on the replay, just so I have the request clear. All emails from Jenna, Crystal, Jenna
to
within the last 7 days to either the warden,
director, the deputy director, or the warden of the Department of Corrections.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And then, I guess the second question is also not going to be answered right now. It's why aren't DOC detainees and inmates being provided cleaning supplies to disinfect their quarters?
I have not been provided a response to that.
Nick, the other thing, the one question that it's not the most urgent thing in the world, but I just thought it was interesting that no one responded to it because it was very simple to answer, was as before 7 days ago, did either the governor or the lieutenant governor feed even one hungry person on this island during the COVID-19 crisis?
with that, I was not issued a response for that either. So the best that I could do, Troy, is make
I'm sorry?
Department. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, right. Yeah, I don't have a response to that. I can't confirm if either Gov or LT did do that. The best that I could do is send another follow-up and see if they could provide a response or provide comment.
Does the governor have a photographer?
There in the communications department, yeah, there's a staff photographer.
There's a staff photographer. So I'd like to make
I don't know
I'd like to make a second.
That's assigned like how it was back when we were working together.
I'd like to make a second FOIA request then.
Sure.
I would like, for the period March 14 through 7 days ago, copies of photos from the governor's staff photographer of the governor feeding a hungry person.
Okay, March 14 to 7 days ago, that puts us at May 6th.
Yeah.
May 6th. Any photos of the governor or lieutenant governor?
No, just the governor.
Oh, okay, photos of feeding a hungry person?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's two formal requests. Okay.
Okay.
Holding you off the line, I'll just send you a confirmation that I received the request just for our...
Thank you so much, Nick. I'm sure Adelup will love to see that email.
Okay, Troy. Anything else that you wanted to pass along? I mean, I do apologize for not being able to provide responses to your inquiries, but I just wanted to be clear that the information that we do pass along to callers every day that we're here at the Joint Information Center. So if there was anything specific or anything else, please let me know.
Thank you.
And I'll do my best, okay?
Thank you so much, Nick. I very much appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
bye-bye.
You too. Bye. So thanks, everyone. Maybe we'll be live later on today. I'm not sure. It depends. We have a lot of work to do with stories and stuff. And I'm hearing very loud pterodactyl flying to the left of me. So before I scream like a Barbie doll, I'm Troy Torres for Kandit News. At our producer's desk is Eric Rosario. Have a good day.